When Mayor Brandon Johnson took the reins of City Hall, all eyes were on who the progressive would pick to lead Chicago police. When he tapped Larry Snelling for the task, many wondered how the 32-year police veteran would navigate the department's many challenges, like police recruitment, reform, and violence, all while working in lockstep with the mayor's root causes approach to criminal justice. Snelling's one-year anniversary as superintendent comes on the heels of a busy year for the department. He had global events like Lollapalooza, the NASCAR street race, political protests, and campus sit-ins, plus the Democratic National Convention. During his swearing-in ceremony, the Inglewood native promised the police with a holistic approach.
Let's work together and fight to build this city so that it is what we know it is. And we can showcase this to everybody else. We don't have to listen to their criticisms. We can hear them, but we know what Chicago is. So let the naysayers say nay. But we win when we stick together in this city and work together as a team. We have to stand with each other and bring some of these issues to a conclusion, especially violent crime.
And when it comes to crime, so far there have been some signs of progress. Over the last year, CPD data shows murders, shootings, and robberies went down between 6 and 9%, and carjacking shot down 23%. However, aggravated battery and burglaries are still on the rise, making many Chicagoans feel unsafe in their own neighborhoods. In our one-on-one interview with the superintendent, I asked him what he plans to do to fix it, along with how he feels about his first year on the job. What are you most proud of accomplishing during this 1 year?
Police morale was a huge thing. It was a huge problem within our department. And just seeing our officers, performing a lot better, feeling better about the job, feeling good. And then just the pride of, watching how our officers responded in a moment where there was huge doubt that they could perform that way. It was just a really proud moment for me to see our department shine in the way that it did. And it was all because these officers bought in. They were dedicated to getting the job done and doing it the right way.
You're talking about the DNC there, correct?
Yes, they were very effective in that. So just looking at our officers, the pride, the direction the department is going, and helping build a relationship between the police and the community again, and then just having our officers get some positive reinforcement about the work that they're doing out there.
Now, you're a black man from Inglewood, went to CPS schools. How does that inform your leadership of this department?
Well, I've always looked at things one way. We always put titles on things, or we categorize people. I look at the people from Inglewood, and a lot of times we see young black men. I see young men, because when they walk into a room, I want them to understand that you don't have to put limitations on yourself because of your complexion. You don't have to put limitations on yourself because of where you came from or your socioeconomic status. When you walk into the room, you want people to know that that's a man that you're looking at or a woman that you're looking at. And so my message to anybody, it doesn't matter where you come from. Limitations you set them for yourselves, right? You shouldn't allow other people to set limitations for you. You have the ability to do what anybody else can do, right? And oftentimes we limit ourselves by placing titles on ourselves.
I love that. All right, let's talk about some of the issues in this city. I'm gonna tell you, man, I'm a man, I pride myself on being in these streets. I love talking to my people, and they love just telling me, whether I wanna hear it or not, what's on their mind. So a lot of questions I have for you are just based off community feedback as well. Obviously, crime down, shootings and murders are down. However, burglaries and robberies continue to be a problem for many Chicagoans. Recently, you had 6 businesses targeted in a 5-hour span, a burglary spree on the Northwest Side. What's being done to address burglaries and robberies and this thing that really contributes to people feeling unease in the city?
Yeah, and we definitely understand that. And look, we could get robberies and burglaries down to 1, And we could say that that is just the best job ever. And it would be a great achievement. But tell that to the one person who was robbed or burglarized, right? So we know that people are feeling a particular way about being victims of crime. With our robbery strategy, because we know that there's a level of violence around robberies and a level of trauma that's greater than that of just property crimes. Now, I'm not downplaying property crimes, but when we're talking about people's lives, that's absolutely going to be the priority. Since the inception of the robbery team, our robberies have decreased drastically. We had seen an increase by mid-year of robberies while we were putting the team in place. Since that team has been put in place, we've seen a decrease of over 800 robberies. Right now, we're in the green, meaning that we're down over 700 robberies right now over a span of a month and a half. So we are seeing that because what we're doing is we're focusing on patterns. We're focusing on repeat offenders. And being able to get these people off the street and having them held accountable is going to be a lot more effective moving forward to let people know that, don't join the robbery gang. Mm-hmm. But we're going to hold you accountable. As far as the burglaries are concerned, we're also working on that with our robbery teams. So our robbery teams are focusing on that. We've just acquired a helicopter. We've got 2 more coming by the end of the year. They're going to help us because they've been a tremendous help with the robbery missions. When there's a robbery spree that's occurring and we get the information, there's information going across districts. Our SDSC rooms are pushing that information out to every district. So we're looking at it in real time. We get the helicopter up. The helicopter is following these guys, and we get to see what location they head to. Our officers get there, and we've been able to take people into custody.
So with these advancements, this is something you expect to see trending down in the future?
Absolutely. Because, look, this is the way to go, right? Because if we're going to get ahead of armed robbers, burglaries, we have to be smarter than the bad guys. We have to be smarter than those who are committing the crimes. So we have to have a strategic approach. So what we're doing now is just intelligence-based policing. So we have bureaus working together.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. More from Superintendent Larry Snelling when we return, including his plans for replenishing the ranks. Hard to believe it's been 10 years since the murder of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald at the hands of former Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke, and the incident still ripples through conversations around policing and reform in Chicago. The aftermath of the 16 shots fired by Van Dyke was colossal, with protests across the city, resignations of top officials, and an attempt to cover up the story. Then a scathing 2017 report from the Department of Justice detailed a culture of excessive violence in the department, ushering in a new court-enforced mandate for the city. In 2018, that mandate became known as the consent decree. Since then, progress on completing its reforms has been slow, with only 7% compliance in 6 years. The key focuses of the consent decree are use of force practices, recruitment and promotion, transparency, accountability, and data to track all of it. Years later, CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling has inherited the task and says completing the consent decree fully will require time. Now, another big issue when it comes to policing, it's a long-standing issue, is trust in the community, right? Reports have come out from independent monitors about CPD practices, police stops targeting black and brown drivers disproportionately. So how have you worked to build trust between the police department and the community?
So number one, and when we talk about traffic stops, right now that's something that we're working on with the independent monitors, with the Office of the Attorney General, and we're in constant communication. I believe that we have a great working relationship right now. We're building those levels of trust. And there's accountability. There's accountability coming from the OAG's office. There's accountability coming from the independent monitoring team. And then there's accountability on our end. We have to hold ourselves accountable for making sure that our officers are properly trained, and we're giving our officers the message of what it is we expect from them. And what we expect is for officers to follow the law, follow our policy, and follow their training. And once we get officers connected to that and having a better understanding and empathy when they're engaging in traffic stops, applying the law proportionately across the board, no matter what neighborhood you're in, this is going to be more effective in building that trust. But in that, obviously, we have to be transparent. We want to make sure that we get the information out through our dashboards so that people can see what's going on. At the same time, we need to educate the public. So we need to be more vocal about what we're doing internally. We need to be more vocal about what it is that we're doing to address the concerns of those people so that they have an understanding. The other thing is we want to bring them to the table because we want to hear the voices. There are times that we put information out with our training to get community input. And as much community input as we can get, that's going to be helpful to us because sentiment data is very important to understanding how people feel about the department, the direction we're going in, and what our connection is and our communication is with the public.
Now, at the center of a lot of those conversations around mistrust is the conversation around reform, and the consent decree comes up often. As you know, it's been more than 5 years, only about 6% compliance, and it's costing taxpayers. Is there more to the story here? What's taking so long to meet that full compliance?
So, I can't tell you everything that occurred prior to my getting in the office.
That's fair.
But what I can tell you is this. I have developed a really great working relationship with the independent monitoring team in OAG's office. I think we have a clear understanding of the direction that we want to move in. But everybody has to understand the 3 levels of compliance. So we have to look at preliminary, right? That's the development of policy, right? So we have to agree upon those things. Once that happens, the next step is to put those policies in place and then train around those policies. And then finally, we have to have an ability to measure the effectiveness of the training, right? And that's when we get to operational compliance, which is at the end. So we don't get to operational compliance until we've got through preliminary and secondary compliance. Once we get through those 2, and then we can measure the training around whatever it is that we're trying to change, that's when we get to our full compliance. What I will tell you is that you will see improvements, you will see progress moving forward. I feel good about where we're going right now. I've embraced the consent decree 100% because this gives us the opportunity to better our department. It's not just about compliance. Compliance alone doesn't mean anything, right? We write laws all the time and people break them all the time. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that we're developing the best department that we could possibly develop, that we're getting the resources to our officers that's going to be necessary for them to do the job the best possible way, the way we expect them to help develop our leadership to get them to that point.
I want to talk about ShotSpotter, hot button issue. You've made it clear it's something you think should probably stay around and you think it helps. There is CPD data you guys have that shows response times are faster with it. So how will you compensate for its loss? Well,
listen, the Chicago Police Department is going to do what we do right now with ShotSpotter. When we have information that shots have been fired, we're going to that job. We get a 911 call, we're going to get there as soon as possible. But at the same time, we want to be proactive. So right now, we do know areas where those are our most violent beats. So we have officers in those areas to respond as quickly as possible. So we've seen a decrease in crime in those most violent beats based on the strategies that we've placed into those particular beats. So we want to get a little closer to those things that are happening, and so that we can prevent them. So the Chicago Police Department is going to continue to show up. There's a 911 call. We want to make sure that people are calling 911 if they hear shots, and we're going to get there. And we're going to perform the way that we always perform, as quickly as possible. And when we get there, if we need to render aid, we're going to do that, get people help. And we're going to try to catch those who are responsible.
Is there any technology that you've looked at or are reviewing right now that might be able to be a replacement for ShotSpotter?
At this time, no. I know that there are some things that are more than likely on the table. But there's a process to get new technology in, and that does not lie with the police department alone. So there are other entities who would be involved in that.
City Hall, the mayor, things like that,
Yes.
aldermen, makes sense. So 9 officers were found on a leaked membership roster from the Oath Keepers, a group focused on recruiting folks who are members of police, members of military, former and current. CPD recently refused to reopen an investigation into some of those officers, and Chicago's Office of Inspector General says more must be done. Why has more not been done?
Well, here, and I don't want to have a back and forth with the Inspector General's office, but the police department has limitations to how far we can go with an investigation. IED did the investigation. The report is out there, and it's out there to be read in detail, everything that we asked for. We don't have subpoena power to look deeper into this. So we went to the IG's office to ask for help with that subpoena power. We did not get it. So reopening the investigation would be the same investigation that we've already done. So what I would say is just take a look at that investigation, look at it as a whole, and have a clear understanding of what that investigation is.
And just ahead, the conclusion of our sit down with Superintendent Snelling. We'll be right back. Reports of racism and transphobia by Chicago police officers has put a bad light on the department for decades. In the final part of our conversation with Superintendent Larry Snelling, he tells me what the department is doing to identify and remove officers with extremist views. To see officers with ties to white extremist groups, does that concern you?
Obviously, this would concern me, but guess what? It just doesn't just concern me with the police department. It should concern everybody, no matter where you are, right? Because when we look at what happened on the 6th of January, that wasn't police officers alone. This is something that affects, our country as a whole. So we should all be concerned about those things. But as someone who is leading a department, it's very important to me to make sure that we have people who have this level of power, that they're performing their jobs in a just fashion, that there's no bias, there's no connection to those who are discriminating against particular groups of people, especially those protected groups. And if we see something like that, we're going to jump on it as quickly as possible. So it's not just about the ties, or it's just not about connecting someone to the group. We're also looking at behavior, because we may have people who are employed who are behaving in a certain manner and they have no ties to any groups. When I detect behavior that I know is discriminatory, I'm going to take action. We've done it already. Obviously, that's not something that people are looking at right now, but we've done that internally. So when we know that we have discriminatory practices with any of our members, there's going to be immediate action taken. And that could be from a suspension, depending on the infraction, up to separation.
Before we go, police recruitment, the numbers for the police, it's been a big talking point, been a big issue for a number of years here, especially with the pandemic and post-pandemic. How are recruitment efforts going right now, and how would you rate them?
Well, recruitment efforts are getting better, slowly. However, I think with the boost in morale, the recognition of the work that our officers, performed during the DNC, I think that's somewhat of a recruitment tool. It gives people the opportunity to see that police officers can and are doing great things. With the right guidance, with the right leadership team, the work can be effective and rewarding on a personal level, knowing that you've gone out, you've protected your city, you've protected your citizens, and you've brought a level of pride to a city right now where people were feeling worried, afraid, and feeling like there was no hope. Bringing that back to the table, and trust me, I know that there are people out there who are still suffering. And that's why we're going to continue this work and move forward. So I'm hoping that people see that and realize that there is a level of nobility in the job if you have the right mindset, if you're focused on doing right by other people, and that you can do great things.
All right. Superintendent Larry Snelling, thanks for your time.
Thank you.